Hey guys, Eric here out at the Bethlehem Golf Club. In today's video, we're gonna talk about the shallowing move that you haven't tried yet. So if you've been trying to shallow your downswing forever, stay tuned. We're gonna show you some things that are gonna really help you out. But before we do that, just a quick word from today's video sponsor. Hey guys, today I wanna talk to you about the hanger training aid. Now, I don't know if you've seen this or used this before, but it is absolutely my new favorite training aid. This hanger here creates and controls what I think is the most important part of the swing, which is the wrist angle. It snaps right on. It takes me probably 30 seconds to put on. I can put it right in my golf bag. And best of all, the main trait of a training aid that's really good is you can hit balls with it. You can actually hit balls with it. So I love this hanger training aid. I've been using it probably for the past 6 to 7 weeks in my own game. You may have seen me in videos talk about, hey, I'm really trying to get my left wrist flat at the top. Look at when I do that well, how that sits on my forearm. Now watch when I cut my wrist, how that comes off. Immediate feedback for where my wrist angle's at. I like to use this even during my takeaway. When I set it up here, I like to keep it between my arms during my takeaway, press it against my left wrist for flat left wrist at the top, press it more against. Look at when I press it against, so that shallows my shaft, that keeps my club face square to close, helps me hit from inside. So I absolutely love this. I firmly believe that this is good for every single golfer. There's no one that can have too flat of a left wrist. One of the few things that all good ball strikers have, we're trying to have. Flat left wrist, right? Super easy to use, incredible immediate feedback. With the coupon code GogornoGolf.com, it's only $59, and I can actually hit balls with it and get instant feedback. Yes, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's about as compressed as I can hit a ball. And that's the main point of this hanger. Iron compression. You're gonna absolutely love it. We'll put all the details down in the description down below. All right, guys, so let's talk about the shallowing move that you haven't tried yet. With me here again today, Mr. Mark Braziller out of the Burroughs Golf Club in Soho.
Yep.
Okay, for me, downtown Manhattan in New York. If you guys are in the area, Soho-ish, Manhattan, New York. If you guys are there, check it out. We're gonna put his info down in the description down below. Awesome indoor place there. Would highly recommend that you go check that out. A, thank you for being here today.
Of course.
B, shallowing the downswing.
Yeah.
So, a couple things today. We have a title here and a promise to the people. Okay.
It's big.
That we're going to give them a way to shallow that they aren't doing. They aren't trying. And I want to lead, before we kind of dive into that a little bit, with what we see normally that people are trying to do to shallow the club.
Sure.
Right. And when we say shallow the club, just to lead things off, if we'll talk about just the club first, maybe a hint as to where we're going here, but just the club first, we would say as a shallowing, I'll do this so you can see better to that camera, that would be like if I drew a line up the shaft, it would be pitching this way.
Sure.
Kind of away from the ball,
yeah,
some amount, right? Flattening. So a little bit of flattening. So the first thing that I see go wrong, before we talk about the best house, because this will make sense, is I see a lot of people trying to shallow this by having their left shoulder go way up right away.
Sure.
And when I watch good players, I see them shallow the club and their arms as the left shoulder stays lower.
Sure.
So let's flip flop for a second, Mark.
Yeah.
You did a demonstration in one of your Instagram videos. We'll put Mark's Instagram down there below, where you were kind of showing like, hey, if my left shoulder goes up, right, and I'm doing the shallow move, like how the heck would I get to the ball? I think that was a cool visual.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what goes on here is people think that this shallowing move, they hear, you know, if I sort of let the club live at the top and keep it passive and I just turn, this thing will magically lay down, right? So I think if you took that premise and you're thinking that way and you tried to have your body lead to a shallowing move, with a left arm only action from up here, to make this club go that way by rotating and doing nothing with my arms, I would hike this left shoulder way up and this club would now be shallow.
Sure.
But again, from here, what can I really do? I mean, I can flick at it and hope to catch it. I can tip it way out and do something funny like that.
Yeah.
So I think what you saw in the video that you liked, which I find myself teaching all the time, is from this position here, feeling as if the left shoulder stays put and this club sort of lowers right down onto this sort of 330 path. And this is what, and we were talking about this before, I mean, Ben Hogan, Tiger Woods, I mean, the number one image I had growing up that I was trying to chase was this, you know, first move where the chest stays passive,
Yes.
the arms lower a bit, the
Yep.
knees do start to square up. Sure, maybe that's too much right now, but that spot there. And I was always there
Sure.
as a kid, and a lot of kids are, you know. So, but yeah, I think that visual of that left shoulder staying put and this arm sort of dropping down and the club falling down on plane is great for
Dude.
anybody sort of spinning out, coming over it.
It's so good. And I think one of the big things that I want to show from this side is like, if a player, and this is what we see all the time, if a player gets too steep with the shaft, or in particular too far out with the hand path, like the last thing that I would tell someone to do would be increase your torso rotation early.
100%.
I see a lot. Now again, this is going to depend a little bit on handicap level and where someone's coming from. We got to keep that in mind here a little bit. We see players all the time, especially the higher handicap player, the hands get too far out, the shoulders are too open,
Totally.
the left shoulder tends to get too high for a lot of players, and the arms are too far out and high. And then from there, I got to do something to fix it late. Whereas, what I would say that a lot of people aren't trying to do, which is
Yeah.
the point of this, is instead of trying to do that, and I get some of that, right? Like if I go back and I let my lead arm bicep press into my pec and I turn against it, there's some reaction stuff that goes on there. But to me, we're dealing with a bigger problem than that.
Yeah.
And the way we both, because I would do the same thing, I need to shallow my arms along with the club as I
Totally.
start down.
Totally. And you know, to piggyback that, if I could steal
Yeah.
your spot again.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, the popular concept of the day of sort of, you know, leaving the arms up there and starting to turn, I teach that all day long.
Yeah.
I teach that to the people who need it.
Yes.
And it's funny, if you want to become a person who needs it, what you've got to do is this, what we're talking about here.
Overdo some of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So theoretically, if I'm in here, and let's say I overdid this, my left shoulder stayed right where it was, and my arms, you know, I almost dropped it way back here by about 4 o'clock.
Yes.
At some point, I'd be doing that low handicap miss, which is pushes and hooks, and I would come see you for a lesson or send my video to you online.
There you go, boom.
And you would tell me, hey, Mark, that's a good swing, but if we put in a little rotation, it'll neutralize things. So the reason why I think we're hearing so much about leave the hands at the top and turn is it's a really good way to take somebody who's maybe shooting 75 or 6 and bring them down under par. But again, if you're not hitting a high draw right now and you're not shallowing the club right now, you need to get your arms working down and keep that left shoulder right where it is.
I don't know that we want to give away the things here. We're even doing previews, but Mary, what a beautiful preview to this video that last sentence was if you want to hit a high draw right now, you would do these pieces the most. And there's levels to this stuff, right? Which is like, or like layers to this. Yeah. If we can get an average handicap player to keep the left shoulder lower, get the lead arm down, right? And as I'm doing this, we've got this little stick on the ground. And if we look at the golf ball at 12, 1, 2, 3 is my toe line, right? We put the stick at a 330 to start with. So as we're coming down, I'm keeping my left shoulder lower. I'm feeling like my arm is essentially under my shoulder.
Totally.
Right? Versus the out high this way. So my arm's down and the club's over 330. You know, that toe's probably right on top or just in front of the heel, depending. But this would be the motion. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Left shoulder stays down, arm gets over 330, and the toes in front of the heel. Let me just bunt one out with that mark here to start with. So my left shoulder stays low. I feel like as I'm doing that, then my arm is getting down in front of my right thigh sooner.
Sure.
I'm not pulling it down in front. It's more of my arms are falling back in front of me.
Yep.
That's how I would say that. The club head's over 330, the toes in front of the heel here. Now, if I were to do this, when I swing, I'm not gonna actually do that. My body is gonna start opening.
Totally.
I'm gonna be shifting pressure. And from there, I'm gonna continue on. One of the key pieces, you said off camera, we should record all that shit, is like really good ball strikers, let's say they're 90 with their shoulders at the top. They're still 45 closed by like left arm parallel.
Totally.
They don't rip the chest and shoulders open right away. You said passive, right?
Yeah.
But then from there, with the club in there, they put themselves in a position to be able to do all that turning. I'm gonna repeat what I said earlier. The last thing I would tell someone who wants to shallow the club and hit higher and farther is open your torso sooner.
Totally.
Maybe a couple of years ago they've been different, but as we sit right now and I see all these swings, start first here.
Yep.
All right, I said I was gonna hit a ball about a minute ago.
Said you're gonna bunt one.
Let me bunt one, okay. Are you a Yankees fan being in New York?
You know,
Not so much?
not so
Not
much.
talk about it?
Yeah.
So, okay. So as I'm doing that, of course, depending upon the flight of the player, maybe as they're coming down, if they're really someone who's out and over,
Yeah.
we said 4,
Yeah.
right? Maybe even more, exaggerated. So when I would be coming down, I'm still keeping the left shoulder lower.
Totally.
And then you'd have them feel like the arm down in the shaft, maybe even.
Yeah, it's actually a good, Sergio's a pretty good visual for that. You watch
Yeah.
Sergio, his chest just stays dead
Oh,
closed,
perfect
that arm
visual.
comes straight down, and then magically, he's the most open player at impact,
Right.
and he actually hits fades from there. So I do think that the more deep you get it, if you're looking to try to look open at impact, and you're slicing it right now, you're probably gonna get it through doing this drill right here.
That's a high draw.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it out of the back of your eyes there, but.
No, I was just waiting to see if it would come off the hosel right at me.
So don't be afraid to put this inside more. Overdo this, right? I would say probably most anyone that shoots 80 or above, like you said, to start with. And then even if I start to get too far under, right? I mean, maybe I put it at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
If I'm someone who's hitting pushes and hooks, but I'm still feeling that same sort of sensation.
And to be honest, if I could
Yeah.
hop in, if your goal, let's say you are a better player, but you still hit some fades and some toe shots probably would come out of this as well, and you look at your swing on video and you see that you don't have this move, I think you still want to get this feeling more towards 330 or 4 and have your rotation bring it to 3,
Got it.
right? So we don't ever want to see these arms coming out. We certainly don't want to see the club pitching out. We want all of this as is from the top, assuming it's reasonable, to drop down. And if it's producing a high hook and some chunks, throw in rotation. Don't change anything you're doing with your arms.
And I think one little visual there too is like, if I went up to the top, we can kind of wrap on this, 'cause I think that's a really good starting point for someone. If I went up to the top and I had my hands kind of behind my shoulder in a neutral position, and I just did the opening part, right?
Yeah.
The big problem with this in a literal sense is what? My arms are still really high in the air.
Yeah, it's like it would work if the ball were up here.
Yeah, right.
And then you could theoretically right side bend and tilt and all that. I don't know what kind of body you have or your students have.
Pretty
but, yeah, I mean,
thoroughbred.
it's
Okay,
pretty
you can see
stellar.
that
But
there, come on.
but for the average golfer, certainly someone shooting in the 80s, high 80s, 90s, 100s, that's a tough task. You better lower these arms early.
Yeah, you gotta lower the arm. So if I'm here like this, the only way for me to even get to the ball like normal is my arms would be here. I mean, look
Yeah.
at that left arm motion. If I
Yeah.
took the torso motion now, we looked at just lead arm, it would work like this.
Totally.
It would work like this. And as you did really well in that video, you can see the shaft shallows, right, without me having to do anything else. And this is just a starting point to be able to feel those, because I see so many swings all day long, and I think the people who are trying to go the other way, like we said, that's not incorrect. It's good for those players that they're working with. It's good for those players that need more of
It's
that.
a high hook fix.
Yeah, it's a
if you're
good
slicing
player
it,
thing.
don't go for a high hook fix when you're working on your swing. Go
If
for
you're
a
slicing
slice
it,
fix.
don't. I'll tell you what, I like that common sense from Mark. So Mark, Burroughs Golf Club, right? Soho. Okay, we're gonna put the link down in the description down below, downtown Manhattan.
Yeah, it's bougie.
If you guys want to learn more about the shallowing, of course, we've got a million shallowing videos. We'll put another card on the screen. But I think the point here is like, know where you're coming from to know what you need to do to get where you want to go. We'll also put the card on the screen for GornoGolf.com. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.